corporate badasses. Hey, how's it going? I am coming on live to answer a question that I received. What if you speak up in meetings and you still don't get promoted? Obviously, this question stems from the age-old advice of women need to speak up more, and if they just spoke up more, they would get recognized. And then what do? We speak up more and we still don't get recognized. What happens? We speak up more and we get called and labeled as too aggressive, right? It's a catch-22. It's what happens. It's called double bind dilemma. It's something that I work on with my corporate badasses day in and day out. So I'm coming on live to answer this question for you. Who am I? My name is Stacey Mayer, and I am an executive coach and promotion strategist, which means I basically think all day long about what it's going to take to get you to that next level of leadership. And why do we need you in that next level of leadership? Because we need more powerhouse corporate women, more corporate badasses, more amazing female leaders in the executive suite. That goes without saying, but I am personally on a mission to double number of women in the C-suite each year worldwide. And I do that through my advanced executive coaching program, the Leadership Table. I do that with my book, Promotions Made Easy, and also my podcast, Women Changing Leadership. And today I'm going to do it with you live here on LinkedIn. So put your questions in the chat. If you have anything that comes up for you, let me know as I'm talking to you. Otherwise, I'm just going to dive right in. Let me tell you a story for me personally, about speaking up. So in general, most women fall on one or two sides. The one side is you're a person who has no trouble speaking up. You're very opinionated. Perhaps the first half of your career, you spoke up a lot. Maybe you choose not to speak up now because you've been shot down so many times. That's a thing. And then there's the other person that you could be, the person that doesn't speak up enough. Maybe you've been told that by your boss, or you feel that, right? You feel that you're not included in the conversation, that people walk all over you, that people take your ideas, that you don't have that voice at the table. Actually, let me know in the chat if you feel like you're which side of the coin you're on. I personally was always on the side of speaking up. Right? I'm making this video for you. Videos are not hard. Finding my voice is not hard. I have a voice. I'm loud. Oftentimes I've been told I'm too loud. I am very opinionated. I have lots of things to say. If I could have it my way, I'd be on a huge stage right now and not working from home in my house, in my home office. I love to speak up and be in front of people. Let me tell you a story about when I was in 8th grade. I was in a musical called Happy Days, the musical. And in that musical, I received a standing ovation. This was the first show I ever performed in. And I remember seeing all the people stand up, and I was just like, wow, I did something right. This is so cool. And this woman came up to me afterwards and she said, "You were amazing. You were the only person we could hear." And I was like, wow, really? So that's all I have to do is speak up, right? And to be amazing is just be loud, be louder than all the other people. And then I have talent, and I carried that talent. Man, I went to performing arts school. I moved to New York City. I had my own theater company. I was loud, right? And I always equated loud with being amazing. You were amazing. And if I had a voice, and I didn't care if people actually listened to me, I just needed to have a voice. And at some point in my 30s, that became not enough, right? I didn't want to just be loud. I wanted to be heard. And that is when everything changed for me. That is when I realized that there's actually a strategy to being heard. And it's actually not about speaking up at all. It's about getting your voice heard. Another story, when I was working in women's leadership, the women I worked, and I still work in women's leadership, but I worked for an organization in Silicon Valley when I first started my coaching career. And these women that came into this organization and took these trainings were amazing. And as part of my executive coaching, I read a lot of women's leadership books like Lean In, and it would give advice to women to just speak up more. That's basically false, because it's rooted in the philosophy that everybody's on the one side, which is we're not speaking up enough. But I know that's BS, because there's a lot of people speaking up and they're still not heard. And I was like, wow, these women are amazing. They're speaking up. They're asking for raises. They're raising their hand. They are taking on project after project, and they still don't have a voice. They aren't heard. They don't have the titles to match their amazing abilities. They're not changing the face of the leadership table because nobody cares what they have to say, but yet they were still speaking up, right? So I'm not at all surprised by this question, which is, what if you do speak up, but you still don't have a promotion? Because look, I've lived it. My clients have lived it. It's the basis of all the work that I do. Something else that you should know about me is, after I left women's leadership and went to start my own business and became what I'm calling a promotion strategist, is that I was really thinking about what it takes to get promoted. So I have an executive promotion process that is 5 steps, and you can actually have access to that if you go to yourpromotabilityscore.com, and I'll share that in the comments. But that's a free online quiz that I give you for free, so that you can actually look at the 5 categories and see where your gaps are and also where your strengths are, and maybe lean into that even more. But it's really going to show you in my executive promotion process where where things might be a little bit off. So if you are speaking up and not receiving promotions, or maybe if you're not speaking up but you don't really want to, what you can do instead to still really get that recognition and have that voice. So that's available to you at yourpromotabilityscore.com, and I'd love to see that and help you with that. But today I'm going to give you part of my evaluation process that I do with clients, right? So when a woman comes to me and they say they're doing all the things, right? They're speaking up, they're asking for raises, they're, engaging in conversation, they're taking on projects. I go through a series of questions in my mind, and then oftentimes quite literally, to understand where they might be a little bit off. So let's look very specifically right now at this idea of speaking up in meetings, right? This age-old advice that we have to speak up more, right, in order to be recognized. The first thing that I'm going to look at, if they feel like they are speaking up and it's not working, is why they are in that meeting. What is the meeting that they're attending? And what is the objective of that meeting? And what is their current status? So let's say you're attending a management team meeting, but you're the most junior person in the room, and you got included in that conversation because you asked and you told them that you were going to be a fly on the wall. Like, you were like, I'm going to be a fly on the wall. I would love to attend this meeting, right? But then you feel this impulse to speak up. Right? You feel the desire to speak up in these meetings, and you do. And it kind of feels weird and awkward, and people look at you a little funny and they freeze and they're like, wait, what's her name again? Who is that person? Why is she on camera? Like, whatever. Right? And you're like, oh, really? They don't want me to speak up, right? I don't feel included in this conversation. Right? So in that particular case, I'm looking at, why are you in this meeting? And if you set it up as being a fly on the wall, then the expectation is that you're supposed to be a fly on the wall, right? It doesn't mean I don't think you should be, right? I think you should be included in the management team meetings, but status and hierarchy matters. And this is one of the reasons that promotions matter, right? So that you do kind of have that voice. But let's say that you have the title, and you do speak up in meetings, but you're still not included. And this is a meeting that's absolutely appropriate for you to be a part of, right? Like, you are one of the management team leaders. You should be in this meeting, but every time you speak up, you feel like you get shut down, right? That happens. That is incredibly common. And unfortunately, it happens over and over again, in particular to women, especially if we're in a room where people don't look, think, talk, and act like us. So let's say you speak up in those meetings and you're not being heard. All right. So then I take that and I say, okay, check. She's doing what she's supposed to be doing, right? So she's speaking up in a meeting that she actually is invited to and supposed to be included in, but yet her voice isn't heard. So then I'm going to take it to the next question that I ask as part of my evaluation process. And that is, what are you actually saying? And so what happens for a lot of people is once we start speaking up about our work, right? So we'll talk about a project that we're working on. We'll talk about our work. We'll give a rundown of the logistics of what we're working on. And this happens at all levels, all the way up to the C-suite. I will see women who still continue to use their work as the first thing that they speak about. And so then I will coach them in particular on changing what it is that they're speaking up about, right? So maybe it turns into speaking up less about your project and what you're working on, or maybe you still do that. But what you're going to do is you're going to speak up more about how it ties into the organization's mission. You're going to speak up more about challenging the status quo. This is a real thing that CEOs were studied and asked what they appreciated about their executive team. And one of the items was challenging the status quo, right? A lot of CEOs don't want as many yes people. Now, again, that's a catch-22, because if you have very differing opinions, you'll also get ostracized. I totally get it. Happy to work with you on that, right? Happy to help you find a way to both be politically correct and have your own voice. But in this particular case, what I'm looking at is how do we shift what it is that she's actually saying in the meeting? So pull yourself out of the weeds, speak to the bigger vision. You can ask really good questions. You can tie in what you're saying to the other people in the room and what's already been said. You start to do these. This is the part of my executive promotion process called executive communication, right? Quite simple, exactly what it is. How do we speak to that vision, right? Versus in the weeds and just like a status update of the project we're working on. So the second piece of my evaluation, first piece is, why are you in this meeting? Do you belong in this meeting? Is this meeting an appropriate place for you to have a voice? Number two is, yes, okay, it is an appropriate place for you to have a voice. Then I'll go to what it is that you're saying. And then the third thing is what else are you doing, right? So are you having ally meetings? Are you building trust with the executive team on the side, right? So my process 15-minute ally meetings is all about teaching you that part of the executive promotion process called building trust, right? And so we're doing that through side conversations outside of the meetings, right? We're having short conversations with a lot of executive leaders so that then when we're in the meeting itself, we don't even have to speak up. Other people include us. Other people know what we're working on, right? We automatically have that voice. We're automatically being included, right? So the third part of my process in sort of evaluating why isn't it working for you, you're speaking up but still not getting promoted, why isn't it working for you, is looking at what else you're doing, right? What else are you doing in terms of your executive communication and building trust with the executive team? All right, so I hope this helps you begin to evaluate why speaking up may not be working for you right now. And if it is working for you, I hope today's conversation showed you what you can continue to do, what you can do more of, so that you can start to build that trust with executive leadership, have those executive communication skills, because my goal is to get you into positions of real influence and power at your organization so that we can all be the change that we want to see in this world. All right. Thank you all so much for listening. Download or go to my website, stacymayer.com/resources. You'll see my promotability quiz. Take that. It'll give you the 5 steps of my executive promotion process. We will get back to you. We'll talk to you about ways that we can actually help you reach your career goals. And otherwise, comment on this post. Let us know what was valuable to you, what insights you have, or what you've personally been trying to do to begin to be seen as that executive leader, to really have that voice at the table. All right. Thank you all so much. Take care. Bye.